Why is Cambridge trusted by teachers everywhere? Come on, let's go find out. Is it because over 100 million Cambridge English exams and tests have been taken and are trusted by more people than anyone else? I think it's because Cambridge helps teachers like me do what we do best. Every single day, Cambridge is trusted by millions of teachers and learners around the world. Cambridge is where your world grows.
Let's begin. Happy New Year. My name is Sofia Moreno. The first time that we see you here in 2025, and we're very excited to bring this amazing webinar to you. This webinar is designed exclusively for our Cambridge English Schools community. In this session, we'll explore key strategies, best practices, and valuable insights to enhance teaching, learning, and assessment. Get ready to engage, to learn, and to take your English program to the next level. And we're so very happy and lucky to have our speaker of the day, Donia Stefanus. I've had the pleasure to meet her, not personally, but in lots of meetings online. And she's very happy to be here today. She's an exam support manager and creates resources and training materials to support teachers preparing learners for Cambridge English qualifications. She has trained teachers and taught adults and young learners in the UK, Spain, and Malaysia. Welcome, Donia. How are you?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm wonderful. It's really lovely to be here with all of you today. Can I check? Can you see my slides?
It's thumbs up.
Fantastic.
Go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. Are we ready to begin? Are you happy for us to start?
Yes, we are.
Great. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for that introduction. You've already said everything that I have on my next slide. It's wonderful to be here. So, as Sophia said, I am an exam support manager. So my role is really about working with you, with teachers, understanding your needs, understanding your challenges, and trying to support you in everything that you do. So my focus is on exams, and I create resources that are on the website to help you understand all you need to know about exams and hopefully help you teach successfully so that your learners can succeed. So, without further ado, let's have a look at what we're going to do today. Now, I hope you can all use the chat box because I hope that you're going to participate and it's not going to be me lecturing you. It's always very helpful for me to hear from you, to see how you're responding or reacting or what you think of about what I'm talking about. And I think it's always really good for teachers as well to see what your colleagues are saying because we learn so much from each other. You know, we are Cambridge, yes, but you are the experts, you know your learners. So it's really important that we all learn from each other. So lots of you are saying, yes, good morning. So, the agenda for today. So we're going to really focus on the handbooks because they're such an important resource for any teacher teaching exams. They are your go-to reference points. We're going to look at some of the key features and how you might navigate your way around them because they are big documents. I know that they're dense. There's lots to them because there's lots of information that we need. And then we're going to have a look at how we can use the handbooks to build our knowledge around exams, and then how we can use the information to support us in the classroom and support our teaching. And then, obviously, really importantly, I'm going to show you where to find them. So let's begin. So my first question from you, checking that you're all there, checking that you're awake, please answer in the chat box. Answer my question. So, big, vague question. What is a teacher handbook? So, what's your impression? What is it? What's its purpose? Let's see who's awake this morning, who's had their coffee. instructions. All of you are online on one laptop. Well, hello, all of you. Perhaps you can nominate somebody to be the typer and get answers from everybody in the room, much like you might a student in your class. It's a resource for students to follow the class. Okay. We're trying to fix this. Good luck, Luis. If not, you can all listen together. I think that's okay, isn't it? All right. So the handbook, we've got it's a resource, but okay, what sort of resource? That's quite a broad word. A compilation of resources that both teachers and students can use. A book that guides teachers. Okay. And I think, the clue is in the title here, but who is it for? Who is a teacher handbook for? Some of you have said for teachers, for students. It is primarily for teachers, or for school leaders to understand, I suppose, about it. It can be helpful for parents, perhaps not directly. Now, how many are there? How many handbooks are there for teachers? Let's think specifically about exams. How many exam handbooks are there? Is there just one for all the exams? Let's see. Give me a number. What do you think? Have a guess. Who's feeling brave? Nobody wants to guess. Okay. There are actually 10. There are 10 handbooks for exams because we have one per level. That's not entirely true. We have one that covers the young learner exam. So starters, movers, flyers. We have one that covers all of them. Although we actually have two now because we have one for the new digital test as well. And then we have A2 key for schools, B1 preliminary for schools, B2 first for schools, C1 advanced and C2 proficiency. So whichever exam you're teaching, you have your own dedicated handbook with all the information. And now a really important question. Do you know where to find them? Do you know where they are? Really important. Online, yes. No. Oh, well, don't worry, I'm going to share that with you today. So it'll be very easy for you to find. We have a very big website. We have lots of pages. So the handbook is so important that you know where it is. So I'm going to share that with you. And for those of you who do know where they are, you do use them. How often do you look at them? Do you look at them once at the start of the year? Do you sort of look at them every single lesson? Is it just when you remember or just when you can find them? Or do you never look at them because you don't need it? You've got your teacher's book, you've got your course book. How often do you look at them? Okay. So I would say every time I do my planning, very good, Dennis. That's very good. I mean, like I said, it's a huge document. I would not expect anybody to read it from start to finish. That's just not what it's for. That's, the idea is that it's there, it's got everything you need for you to dip in when you need. So you need to decide really what is it you need from the handbook and when. So I asked you what is a teacher handbook and what's in it. So very broadly speaking, it has the exam overviews, it has can-do summaries, task descriptions, advice and strategies, assessment criteria, and links to additional support. Now, I'm going to go through each of these and we're going to look at them in a bit more detail. It's important to note that these handbooks are created with a lot of care. I work on these handbooks, so I work very closely with assessment, with the teams who create the exams to make sure that we've got all the information that's relevant. And I work very closely with teachers and marketing to know what is it that teachers need? What are they asking for to make sure that we've got all the answers for you? And then I work very closely with teaching experts to make sure that we're putting in helpful and useful advice. So it's very important. And we do take a lot of care over them, which I hope you will see. So, what do they look like? These are the front covers. I've just got two examples there. They all look fairly similar, but with a different exam title. Now, they are organized by skill. So they're actually quite easy to use. They're very long, but they're very easy to use. So you can see here, there's like a contents page, and it's separated by skill. So you've got all the reading information, the writing, listening, speaking. And within that, you've got the tasks, you've got help on preparing learners, you've got advice, and sample papers and assessment. So it's a clickable document, so you don't have to search through the pages. You can just click on the page you want and it will take you directly there, which is, one of the reasons that I really recommend that you don't print it out. I mean, it's up to you how you use it best, but I'd say it's much easier to use the online version. And rather than downloading it and always going back to your one copy, it's much better that you bookmark where it's kept on the website and you go back into the most up-to-date version because they are updated regularly. Things change, things get added. We get feedback that teachers need support on a certain area, so we add it in as we go along. So for that reason, I really recommend that you always go and use the most up-to-date version on the website. So let's have a look. At the beginning, we start with an overview. So what can you see on this page and why might it be useful for you as teachers? Why is this overview page useful? What might you use it for? Who might you relay this information to? I'm interested to hear about your context and who you might need to share this to. So this overview, um, it's a really important page actually because it it's initially, it's essential facts about the exam. It's not in a lot of detail. So it's something you can look at quite quickly and you can share this information with students or their families if parents want to know roughly what's going on. And yes, families, exactly, Sophia. And it has links to special requirements. I'm saying Sophia, but it might actually be a teacher with the wrong name, mightn't it? So I'm sorry if I'm calling you all Sophia. It has links to special requirements if you have students that need maybe extra time. There's all the information there, and it's information on certificates. So it's a good overview. It's not loads of detail, probably not enough detail for you as teachers, but again, we have an overview of each skill. So this is so helpful for you to just understand what's in the tests. What do the tests look like? Being informed about the overall entirety of the exam, the different tasks that go into it. Now, each section goes into detail and breaks down each component into tasks. So here's just a really broad overview, the time of the tasks, and then you've got it in a bit more detail. So here's a focus on reading and writing, all the different parts, and the task type. So is it a multiple choice? Is it an open close where they have to write? Is it a story where they have to write? And what do they have to do? So do they have to do reading? Do they have to find a factual test? Do they have to complete gaps or do a writing? So I'm just going to show you now how that looks for the listening tasks as well. And the reading and writing. So you can see that generally it's really helpful for giving us an overall understanding and also an understanding about Cambridge. But is it enough for you as teachers? Is this all you need? Okay, I've got an overview of the exam. I can go and teach it now. Is that enough, or do you need more? I'm sure you're all saying, no, of course we need more. We need to know how to prepare our learners. We need to know what skills are being tested in each part. We need to know how to develop the relevant skills and language that they need. So we will come on to that part in a bit. So this is still the intro. This is still information. More. Okay, so again, we're still on the information bit. So we're still learning and understanding about the tests ourselves. So here we've got a direct comparison between digital and paper-based, because some of your learners now might be taking the digital tests over the paper-based, but they might just, but what's the difference? Yes, we've said it's the same content, but will it look the same? So there's a really good comparison. So you can see exactly what it looks like if you take it on the computer versus the paper-based. And this is something that you might get questions about from parents as well. So it's quite a good one. Now, this is obviously true for levels A2 key upwards. For YLE, of course, it's only a paper-based test. There's a new digital test, but it's a completely different test. So there aren't comparisons in the handbook of those. You just have separate handbooks. Now, what are these can-do statements? Do you know what these are? Why might these be helpful? And who are they helpful for? What are can-do statements? What are can-do statements? And what are they helpful for? I wonder if in the room everyone's sort of talking amongst themselves. So these can-do statements are what we will measure and develop on our materials. Yes, okay, good. So they do. They help to translate the Common European Framework of Reference level descriptors. So those can sometimes be a bit, teachers might say, oh, I don't really understand what they mean, but these are translated into really easy to understand sentences so that teachers understand, but also so do students and parents. So these are a great springboard really for conversations about course expectations. It's looking at what students need to be able to do at each level. So you can use these in your lesson planning. You can use them as a lesson aim. You could say by the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand some information about an area, and that links to one of the can do statements. Okay, so they're really good to be used as lesson aims, which you can then use as success criteria to see if you fulfilled your aims, and they help learners be really clear about what they're doing and what they're aiming towards. So it's not just we're looking at this exam task today, it's reading. They're actually understanding a communicative reason for the language that they're learning. So clear goals, objectives, very simple, and you can share them with parents. So that's really the first section of the handbook, just understanding a little bit information around the exam. But what about for you as teachers? What more support do you need? Because that's just information. Let's have a look at teaching support. So I want you to imagine now that you need to learn about the listening component. You're teaching some listening. What information might you need from us? What might be useful for you as a teacher? You think, oh, I need a bit of advice. We're going to start learning about the listening. We're going to start developing listening skills. What information do you think you might need? What questions might you have? See if you can give me a couple of ideas. What might you need to know about for listening? I'm going to give you one. You might need to know the sort of topics to cover. You might need to know great topics. Yeah, you need to know the topics. What else might you need to know? You might have questions about accents. We get asked that a lot. What accents are in the test? What accents do we need to practice with our learners? Is it all UK accents or are there some US accents? How many parts are there? I'm giving you lots of ideas here. Any more? What else would you like to know? What's key information? How many times they will hear it? Yes, the speed. Good. Good, exactly. I think we're in line now. That's good. So, yes, you need to know, right, how many parts are there? What sort of topics? What are the accents? How many times are my learners going to hear the audio? Because that's going to affect what we do in the class, and that's going to affect their confidence because I need to share that information with them. And what are the sort of different situations and the context? So, all this information is, you guessed it, in the handbook. We've got that advice there for you. So now let's think of some more general advice that you might need. What general advice might you need for listening? I've got a gap fill here. General advice. Here is some general advice. Help learners understand the what of the text they are listening to. See if you can fill in the missing words. Context, okay. Help learners understand the context of the text. Learners should identify the what of the task. Any ideas? Meaning, topic, length. Make sure learners read the so they know what to do. Make sure they read the instructions, the task, the question. Use the of the recording once they have finished. Use the of the recording once they have finished a task. Let's have a look. So the advice is all in the handbook. Lyrics, help learners to understand the type of text. I think some of you got that, yeah, that they're listening to. Understand the context. Are they listening to a story? Is it a conversation? Is it a radio program? What's the purpose of the task? Why do they have to do the task? Why is it important? We know how important it is for our learners to have a reason for what they're doing. So it doesn't just feel like a classroom activity for an exam. What's the life skill? How is it going to benefit them outside of the classroom? Instructions, I think you all got that one. And use the transcripts. So once they have done the listening, they've done the recording, they've put their answers, they've got some right, they've got some wrong. How can they correct it? Use the transcript. Look at it as a reading. Get them to understand where they went wrong to help them again. Or get them to read bits of it to each other. Practice their pronunciation and their listening. Okay, so here, that's some general advice in the handbooks for teachers. I've taken that straight out. Now, let's have a look at a couple of example tasks and the explanations in the handbook. Let's see how they could help you. So, this is a task. Does anybody know what level this is from? What level is this task from? Starters, yeah. Grade 1 starters, listening part 4. So your teachers, what do you have to know about this task? What do you have to know? What do you have to know? And what do learners have to do? Students have to listen and colour, okay? Specific instructions, vocabulary, prepositions, colours, yep. Good. So you're right. Learners have to listen. They have to understand colours, prepositions, and then they have to colour the right bit in the picture. So you know what learners have to do? So what do you have to teach? What do you as teachers have to teach? What skills? What skills do you need to teach them? Listening, yeah. Vocabulary, always very important. Reading, okay, yep, for the instructions. Listening for information, yes, for specific information. So You are very skilled teachers. You're able to look at a task and say, this is what they have to do, so this is what I have to teach them. We could just say, well, you do it, but we don't. We help you. So the handbook explains all of it. So it will say this in this task, learners have to colour. So this is testing Lexis, as you said, colours, prepositions of place, and it tells you exactly what they need to do. And it gives you some advice. Make sure they bring coloured pencils. Make sure they know what they have to do. Reassure them. Okay. It's also much simpler to do on a low level task, isn't it? As the tasks get more complex, much higher level, it's a lot harder for teachers to dissect exactly what has to be taught. So that's why it's really, really useful that it's all in the handbook for you. Let's do one more. So let's have a look now at a reading. Do you know what level this is from? Any ideas? This is a reading. It looks like B1. It's actually A2 key. So what do they have to do? And what skills and language do you have to teach them? So it's a reading task. Yep, they have to learn reading. Any particular skills for reading? Synonyms, very good, Erica. Yep, synonyms are very important in this activity. They're looking for specific, reading for gist, okay, to get a general idea. And then after that, they need to scan and look for specific information. So those are the sort of activities that you need to develop with them. And it's all in the handbook. So it breaks down the task and it tells you how to approach the task. So again, it's just taking some of that hard work from you because teachers are very busy. So this is just supporting you in your preparation. And, this is a really helpful thing to look at the beginning of the year when you're starting to introduce the task types, but it's also really helpful nearer the end of the year to make sure to go back and check almost as a checklist, right? Have we covered all of these skills? Have we covered all of these language points? And if not, now is the time to go back and do them. So this is how it looks in the course book. So you have, sorry, not the course, but the handbook. So you have an image of the task, a description, how to approach it, and how it's assessed. So it's very, very clear for you, and it takes away a lot of the work. Sorry, my chat box keeps disappearing. Let's put it over here. All right, so we've had a little look at the detailed task descriptions, which are essential. And now we're going to have a look at something else that's included in the handbook, and that is sample tests. So I would love to hear from you again. Sample tests, do you use them? And what do you use them for? What do you use sample tests for? Do you use them at the beginning of the year to see how they might approach it? Do you use them to practice along the year, Dennis? Okay. Or mid-year? So what do you use it for? Why do you use it then? Is it to decide if they're ready? Or is it just to familiarize them with it? Okay, so to get students comfortable, so they get used to the logistics and as practice. Okay. And how often would you do these sample tests? Oh, some of you do it as a mock, so they get used to it. That is very important because we want to build their confidence, don't we? And if your learners are going to be taking their exams in sort of May, June time, now is probably a good time to do one, isn't it? To help them be prepared and know what to expect. And do you know where the free sample tests are? Do you know where they are? Again. It's probably quite obvious, considering the topic of the webinar, isn't it? Because they are on the website, but they are also in the handbooks. So again, your handbook has everything. So rather than looking for lots of resources everywhere, you can just go to the handbook, and it has paper-based samples in there, and it has links to digital sample tests as well if you need them. And as well as the sample test, it obviously includes the it includes the answer key, which is very important. Maybe you're going to mark it, or you're going to get learners to mark their own, or do some peer or self-assessments. And it also has the tape scripts. Do you ever use the tape scripts for learning? Do you ever use them for learning? And if so, how? What do you do with them? What do you do with them? And the answer keys? Do you just give them the answers and say, check? They're a very good teaching resource. So you can use them to check them yourself, as I said, or you can give them the tape script and say, go back, treat it as a reading, see where you went wrong, and maybe circle it or correct it, do it again. And you can get them to compare and look at each other's. So really useful as a teaching resource, as well as to check their progress, the sample tests. And then writing. The assessment criteria. How do you feel about marking writing? How do you feel about marking writing? Are you confident marking writing? Do you feel that you understand the criteria, or do you find it challenging? Challenging. Yes, we hear that a lot from teachers, that they find marking writing challenging, and understanding how to assess their learners and how they get each band. They do find it difficult, and therefore learners find it difficult knowing what to aim for and what to achieve. So let's have a look here. We've got an example from the B1 preliminary handbook, and it lists the assessment scale. So it tells you what they're going to be graded on. So, of course, it's content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. And it tells you how you can achieve each band. So it really helps teachers understand the criteria, and therefore how to explain the criteria to your students. It can be really motivating because teachers can feel confident about it and then share that with their learners, and then their learners know exactly what they're aiming for, and they can use this as a checklist to check their own writing. So how can you practice using the assessment criteria apart from on your own learners' work? Well, another really key feature of the handbooks is sample answers. So there are example answers in there that other candidates, real candidates, have written. So you can look at those examples and you can try to grade them yourselves. And then you can check that how accurate your grading is against real examiner comments. So those are also included in the handbook. So, and it goes into quite a lot of detail. So here you can see this person has done really well, actually. They've got 5 for 3 of the bands and 4 for content. And there's really detailed explanation as to why they got that grade. So you can use that as a teacher. You could do it in a teacher training session among a group of you. You can all kind of test each other, or you could even give it to your learners. Now, depending on the age of your learners, they might find this really useful. They have to look at it and decide what grade to give it. So that's a really useful resource that I would highly recommend you looking at and using in your classroom, and not just as a guidance. Now, that's B2 First for schools. This exists for all levels. Okay, so even the more basic writing. So this is A2 flyers where they have to write a story based on the 3 pictures, and their response is very short. It's a very short thing that they have to write, but it's about starting to practice writing. So again, you have a response. Have a look at this response. How do you think this should score? Do you think it would score highly, nearer to a 5, or low, down to a 0? What do you think? It's a bit unfair me asking you this on the spot without you having time to look in a lot of detail. But what is your initial take on it? One day, Jack and Mary are play bell. Oh, no, Jake take the bell into the sea. Great. A fish take the bell to the Mary. So obviously that's based on the beach pictures. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you exactly what they got. So they actually got 3 marks, so right in the middle. And the examiner comment, it's organized and it expresses order. Yes, that's right. So let's see what the examiner said. The response successfully describes a progression of events. So it's clearly a story. It's clearly one thing happens after the other. It addresses all 3 pictures, but it does have a bit of a strain on the reader. Bell instead of ball. That's a bit hard to understand, isn't it? It's likely to have to read the text more than once in order to make sense of it. So that is, again, such a useful resource as teachers to be able to use to help you in marking your own learners' work, but also for your learners to see what they're aiming for. So a great feature of the handbook, I'm sure you'll agree. Now, I have very cheekily snuck in an extra resource here. This isn't in the handbook, but you can link to it from the handbook because they're not very old, these guides, and they're really, really, really useful. So they act as a training resource for teachers, really, for writing, and they give really detailed information about challenges that learners face and ideas that you can apply in your classrooms. So it's a writing guide and it exists for all levels from A2 up. So there isn't one for flyers, but there is from A2 key upwards. And this is just a little example of what it looks like. So it goes into quite a lot of detail and lots of classroom activities that you can use with ideas of how you might adapt them as well for your learners. And here it has even more samples additional to the ones in the handbook, so you can do even more practice for you and your learners. So that's looking at assessment criteria for writing. Now, assessment criteria, as I said, is so useful, and so it obviously exists for speaking. Now, here I've popped in the assessment criteria for A2 Key scores. And again, you can see it spans across 5 bands. So you know exactly what learners are aiming to achieve in order to be able to get band 5. And these are accompanied and these are linked out from the handbook to speaking test videos. So we have videos for, again, all levels, and we have 3 examples per level. So you can use these in your lessons to build your learners' confidence, help them see and know what to expect on the day, and you also get examiner comments that you can see how they've performed. So these are linked out from the handbooks. Yes, they're great to show the students. Exactly, Dennis. I totally agree. You know, it's useful for teachers to act as a training, but it's so useful for the learners as well. The more that they can feel prepared for the day and know what to expect, the more confident they're going to feel, and the better they can do, the better they can really show their language abilities. So again, you know, at whatever point you are in your course, it's a good time to show them probably at the beginning as an idea, but now getting towards exam day, you can show it to them, really help build their confidence. And now if they watch it, they'll recognize, oh, I've done those sort of tasks before. You could even pause the video, get them to do the tasks at the same time. So these are really great for wherever you are in the course, especially getting towards exam day. So how would you use these? You said you would show it to students. Yes, they're on YouTube and there is a link to them. As we've just said, builds confidence. And it does develop listening skills as well. It's not just about speaking, because if they're watching other people do the speaking test, it develops their listening skills. So it's a win-win, really. It develops them all round. So I mentioned that these are linked to from the handbooks. At the beginning of the handbook, there's a really helpful page called Exam Support. And here it lists all sorts of resources and support for teachers that's available. And it gives you links to where you can find them. So again, if you've got access to the handbook, then therefore you've already got access to all the support resources. So definitely have a look at there. You can see there's tutorial videos, there's advice, there's lesson plans. You can sign up to attend webinars as you are today. And then there's other information for parents and candidates that you can share with them. So we've had a little look at the handbooks. We've looked at the information. We've looked a little bit at how they are organized, what you can use them for, and how they can support you planning your course, but also in your everyday lessons and in your teaching. So where are they? Very, very important. So there are actually 2 access points to the website, and I'm going to show you both of them because both points have different purposes really and different advantages. It just depends what you're looking for. So the first one is through the exam preparation journey. Have you heard of the exam preparation journey? Have you heard of it? This is a visual representation of what it is. And it's 10 packs, and each pack takes you through advice and gives you tips and activities to help you depending on where you are in your exam journey. So if your learners are taking their exams in sort of May, June area, you're probably maybe around pack 7. I'd say pack 7, pack 8. So it's worth going in and having a look and thinking, oh, what might be really helpful for me to be doing at this point in our exam journey? But actually, you could go into any pack at any time. I've got a QR code here, which will give you direct access to it. And this just shows you what they look like. So you can see you've got packs 1 to 10. And actually, there's a little article about the handbook in pack 1, because we often say when you're starting out a new course, it's really helpful to start with the handbook to get the overview. But actually, the handbook's useful at wherever you are because it has help along the way. Now, in order to get to the resources, once you're in the exam preparation journey, each pack has a little video to introduce it. And just above the video, you can see there it says key resources. And if you click on that, it then opens this tab and you get a list of all the different levels. So depending on which level you're teaching, you click on that tab and then it will take you to the preparation page, which has all of the resources on there. So there you can see it has learner essentials, exam essentials, and teacher essentials. And the handbook is in teacher essentials. So that's one way you can access the materials. Another way is through cambridgeenglish.org, because perhaps you just go directly there or you have that page bookmarked. I know lots of people do. And if you click on Learning English, and you'll see it, there's a tab that says Exam Preparation. Now, this is my favorite page because it's very easy to find. You click on Exam Preparation and all the different levels come up again, and you just click on the level that you want. So we're going A2 Key for Schools again. And it takes you directly to the preparation page for that level. And again, it's separated into teacher essentials, exam essentials, and learner essentials. So if you scroll down on that page, you'll get to teacher essentials and you can see there the list. That is exactly where the handbook is. So you click on that link and you use the version that is online at the moment. And you can see there's lesson plan, teacher guides. That's where those writing guides were. There's a mock test toolkit, which actually at your stage of preparation would be excellent to go in and have a look at as well. So I've tried to go through that quickly so we can still finish on time. And I think I've just about managed it. So we've had a look. Let's recap. We've had a look at what was in the handbooks, some of the key features. We've had a little look about how we might navigate our way round. And we've talked about how we might use them to build our knowledge about exams and how we use them to support teaching. And then finally, we've looked at where to find them. So, do you have any questions for me? I'm happy to answer some now, and I'm going to leave this QR code up for you while you're asking questions.
Thank you, Donia. Yes.
Dennis.
Check if there's any questions. Teachers, any questions for Donia?
I just saw a comment from Dennis saying it would be great working on it along the year. Oops, I didn't see that.
So at the
So
end,
at the end, it gets too familiar for students. Exactly. Yeah. I think the more familiar we can get students with the test format, the more confident they're going to be, and the easier it's going to be for them to transition and be exam ready, rather than right at the end suddenly, oh, let's do a sample test, and then they panic because they maybe don't do very well. So yeah, the earlier that we can support them, and actually. I saw another question saying, how often do you recommend to apply the sample tests? It's a good question. And I'd probably say, you want you want 2 to 3 really. I'd say don't do one too early on in the year because you don't want to do it right at the beginning before they've developed the skills and the language that they need. Because it might just be really hard and then it's quite intimidating. And then if they don't do very well, it can be quite demotivating. And we don't want to demotivate our learners. We want to build their confidence. So I think it's really important that we're aware of the skills and the language that they need and we develop that. And then maybe sort of along halfway, we do a sample test and do it properly. And then you can really assess how your learners are doing and look at areas that they're doing really well and show them their strengths. And then you can point out areas where perhaps they need a bit more support and development. And then from then, learners can create their own goals if they know exactly what they need to improve, and teachers can incorporate that into their planning. And they've still got enough time to make sure that they can help their learners improve so that they can be ready for the exam. So it's a good question.
Thank you so much, Donia. Any questions before we end up and we wrap up the session? No. Okay. Amazing webinar, Donia. I think you gave us a lot of insight and how valuable I think every single teacher should have their handbook, whatever the teaching or the exam your students are taking, or all of them, to get to know how this progression pathway goes. And remember, teachers, that we're also developing cognitive skills. So in the handbook, we'll give you also an insight of the cognitive skills that goes along with the linguistic competence. So thank you so much, Donia. Hope that we will have you soon here in Mexico with our teachers. It would be amazing.
It would be my pleasure. Yeah.
Yes.
I hope
We'll
so.
add you maybe to Cancun, I don't know, or some
Yeah,
of our
somewhere with a beach.
somewhere
No.
with a beach, or all of beautiful cities too. Thank you so much, Donia. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And thank
And
you to all the teachers and good luck.
yes, thank you so much.
Bye.